Hey guys, it's Mike with Riding in the Ozarks, and I just got new wheels for my Harley Davidson Street Glide. So in today's video, we're going to go over how to remove the stock wheels, install these new wheels, and I'm going to give you a review on these new badass wheels from TCMT. When these things came in, they were packed super well in a cardboard box. So I decided I'm getting all brand new rubber to go on these new wheels. And I mean, if I'm going to have all the wheels off and have the brake calipers off, it's probably a good time to go ahead and upgrade or replace your brake pads. So I decided I was going to go ahead and get 3 sets of brake pads as well. And then I got to thinking, if I'm putting these gorgeous wheels on the front of my bike, and I already have that new clockwork slicer fender that shows off all the wheel, I mean, do I really want to put stock rotors back on a new wheel like that? So I picked out a set of Arlen Ness jagged front spoke mount rotors. Yep, spoke mount, that's important to know. Not all wheels are the same. Your factory wheels on my 2016 Street Glide are what they call spoke mount rotors, and these wheels are designed to use your factory rotors. So you're either going to use your factory rotors or you're going to do something like I did and buy new rotors. Now, I got to figure out where to get all this stuff. I reached out to Randy at Bike Works in Urbana, Missouri. And I explained to Randy that I was going to need to film the install for YouTube. And being the cool dude that Randy is, he said, I'll help you out. I'll get you the tires, I'll mount them on the wheels, we'll put the rotors on there, I'll install them on your bike, and you can film while I do all that. I drive up to Randy's shop, I drop off the new wheels. He's going to order everything, let me know when everything's in. And he realizes I've told him the wrong tire size to order. Sure enough, I wasn't paying close attention. These are 18-inch rear wheels. Now my 2016 Street Glide has 16-inch rear wheels. 2018 Harley Davidson went to 18-inch wheels. These will fit, but you're going to run a different tire size. In 2018 they went to a 180/55. My 2016 16-inch wheel is a 180/65. So you're going to go to a lower profile tire. But don't worry, that's not really a big deal because all the hardware and everything else is the same. It's going to mount up the same. It's just the fact that you are going to change that circumference of that wheel just a little bit. And we're going to talk more about that in a minute. Now, I'd done some research because I wanted to know what that was going to make for a difference in the ride height, the seat height, things like that. And everything I read online said it was going to raise the rear end up about 5/8 of an inch. And I measured it before and after. And sure enough, putting an 18-inch wheel on the rear when it's been a 16-inch before does raise the rear of the bike about 5/8 of an inch. Now that only raises the seat height about 0.3 inches, so not a very big change in the seat height, 1/4 of an inch roughly. All right, once everything is in, Randy calls me. I ride my bike up there to Urbana, Missouri. Check out his shop. By the way, he's got a beautiful panhead chopper in the shop. If you get a chance to stop by there, you definitely need to check that bike out. It is beautiful. I'm going to leave a link to his Facebook page down below. You can look him up on there. You can Google him and get his phone number, reach out to him, stop by. He's easy to find on Highway 65 right there in Urbana, just on the north side of town. All right, so let's walk through the install process. And I'm going to assume the tire is already mounted on the wheel. I recommend if you are doing this yourself that you take pictures, record video, whatever you got to do, so you make sure that you know where spacers belong, where the ABS speed sensor goes, which side had what nut on it and which spacer and which washer. You want to make sure you get all that back together. Now the way we did this is how we did it for my 2016 Street Glide. If you're doing this for some other kind of motorcycle and you're just using this video to see how to take wheels off and put them back on, then yours might be slightly different than mine. But on my 2016 Street Glide, first thing we did was put a jack underneath it, raise the bike up just enough to get that front wheel where it's almost off the ground, but not quite. Next, you're going to break that axle nut loose. Then I'd go ahead and remove the brake calipers and get them back out of the way. I recommend, if you can, get some of those Crown Royal bags, the sacks that the liquor comes in, and you put that up over the caliper and kind of tie it with the drawstring. And that way, if the caliper ends up touching the fender or something else, it doesn't scratch the paint. Next, you're going to loosen the pinch bolt on the other side opposite of the axle nut. Then raise the bike up enough that the front tire comes off the ground, and it's just where you can get that front tire kind of out underneath that fender as you roll it forward. That's all you need. Not got to get crazy up in the air. Now, if you have an old motorcycle tire laying around, that makes a really good item to set the new wheel on. It's rubbery and cushiony and all that stuff while you're working on it, because we got to get that rotor off of the existing stock wheel. If not, make sure you have cardboard and blankets down so you don't scratch the surface. Don't be leaning and prying on things and warping anything or anything like that. But the next thing you got to do is get that front rotor off of the stock wheel. If you're not buying new rotors, you're going to reuse your stock rotor, your stock bolts, your stock bushings, and that washer, that spring washer. So you're going to need all of those components off of your stock wheel unless you buy new ones of those. In my case, I bought some chrome hardware bolts for the rotors and new rotors, so we only need to use the bushings and the washers off of my stock wheel. And don't worry, the new wheels come with the bearings already pressed in the wheel, so you don't have to worry about bearing. Now I gotta say, when we put the new Arlen Ness brake rotors and hardware on this new wheel, it looks really, really sharp. Now, I went ahead and ordered brake pads at this time, but if you haven't ordered brake pads, make sure you check your brake pads while you have the calipers off. Brake pads range from $30 to $50 depending on what you're buying, but they're not super expensive. So if you haven't changed them in a while, this is a really good time to go ahead and just put brake pads on while you have this all apart. Now, I don't know if it's a combination of the brake pads and the new rotors or what it is, but the brakes feel really, really good now with this change to the new rotors and the new brake pads. They are a touch more noisy though than the organics that I had previously. Now, in case anybody's wondering, there's going to be a link in the description down below to the wheels and maybe even a discount code for them, for the rotors, for the hardware, for the brake pads I used. Everything I used will be linked down below. So before you ask, just check down there. After you put this all back together, don't forget to pump the brakes. Basically, you're just going to reassemble this the same way you took it apart after you've moved your rotors over. And don't forget the blue Loctite on your rotor bolts. Now let's move to the back of the bike and do the rear wheel install. Depending on the type of jack you're using, you may find you need to move it to the rear of the frame, just in front of the rear wheel, to get that rear wheel off the ground. So maybe you'll have to do that, but basically you're going to jack that rear wheel up till it's almost off the ground, not quite. Then you're going to pull the saddlebags off if you have a touring bike like mine. That's just two little pins on the inside of the saddlebag you take loose. And then I recommend going ahead and pulling the shocks off on both sides. That's only 4 bolts, 2 on each side. Just get the shocks out of the way. You're going to see why in just a second, but it's going to make the job easier in the long run, I think. Go ahead and pull that rear brake caliper and get it out of the way now. Now on my Harley, we marked a line where the axle cam is across to the swing arm. And so we draw a white line across both. So then when you put it back together, you just line those 2 lines up and you get it back in the same place for the belt tensioning. That's a little tip at no extra charge. But the next step is going to be to go ahead and break that rear axle nut loose. After you've loosened up the axle nut, go ahead and rotate that a little bit so you don't have tension on the belt. Then you should be able to pull that belt off that rear drive pulley really easily. Now at this point, we lower the bike down as low as we can get it. If you cannot get the rear axle to slide out over the saddlebag supports, you might have to put a chunk of wood underneath that rear wheel to support that a little bit, raise it up a little bit. Then you should be able to pull that axle out over the saddlebag supports and not have to do any other jacking up and down or taking any other parts or exhaust off to get that loose or get that out. Now, once you've gotten the rear axle out and the wheel is loose, then you're going to jack the bike back up and you're going to rotate that wheel back out underneath the exhaust and the swing arm. Now, if it didn't already come loose, go ahead and take the pulley and the isolator off the wheel. And again, if you've got an old tire laying around that you can set this on, that's a perfect work surface that's soft and everything to work on this, because you're going to have to take that rear rotor off of the stock wheel and put it on the new wheel as well. Now, I did not buy an Arlen Ness brake rotor for the rear wheel because I didn't think you were going to be able to see it, so I didn't spend the $200 on it. But after feeling the front brakes and the improvement there, it's on my wish list for Christmas. Now don't forget the blue Loctite when you move the rotor over from your old wheel to your new wheel. Again, I'm not going to give you torque specs. You need to look those up for your own motorcycle. I don't want anybody using torque specs for my motorcycle for their motorcycle and they not being right. So look up for your own particular motorcycle, but torque everything down, use blue Loctite on the rotor bolts, and then just reassemble in the opposite order. Now these wheels fit a 2008 to 2013 ABS Harley Davidson Touring model. So if that's you, then these wheels will work for you. The front wheel is available in a 19 by 3.5 or a 21 by 3.5. The rear wheel is only available in an 18 by 5.5. These are also made from lightweight, high-strength aluminum A356 T6. Now, I've only got 390 miles on it right now, but we're about to do a 3,000 mile ride to Sturgis for the 83rd Sturgis Motorcycle Rally. When I get back from that, I'm gonna finish my review and let you know how these held up after 3,000 miles.
3 weeks later.
All right, guys, we are back from Sturgis. 2,800 miles round trip, plus the 400 and some miles I had on it. So I have over 3,200 miles on these rims now. So because of low profile sidewall, some people say they ride stiffer. There's less give in the sidewall of the tire. I don't know if I really noticed a lot of that, but other people say that that stiffer sidewall, lower profile tire also handles better. I'm really happy with the way it handled with the 18-inch tire. We rode some really curvy roads up there, Iron Mountain Road, Needles Highway, Spearfish Canyon, all the big rides, we did all those. So the bike handled well. What I really liked was I felt like cruising down the interstate that I could run faster at the same RPM or at a slightly lower RPM, you know, and still maintain the speed limit per se. So South Dakota has an 80 mile an hour speed limit. I felt like I wasn't pushing the RPMs as hard to run that 80 mile an hour up there as I was with the 16-inch tire. Now I know it's only supposed to make a couple of mile an hour difference when you look up on this website about the difference ratio in the tires and how much it's gonna make your speedometer off. It really felt like on that 2,000 miles of highway riding up and back that the bike wanted to run a little faster at the RPM I'm used to maintaining. So whether that was me, the bike, what, I don't know, but I liked it. I'm very happy with it. I think they look great. Had lots of compliments on these wheels since I put them on there. Definitely something that I think is worth doing. I don't think it will hurt your bike in any way, shape, or form to switch from a 16 to an 18, and I think there might be a few positives to it. At least it feels like it to me after having done it. That's my review of the wheels. Now, just to be clear, because some people get excited about this, TCMT did give me these wheels. I did not pay for them. They are a review sample. And I really appreciate them letting me and trusting me to review these wheels. If it makes anybody feel any better, I did spend $1,000 on 2 new Metzler tires. I went with Cruise Techs, 2 new Erlen Ness rotors, 3 sets of brake pads, and the rotor mounting hardware. Okay, I hope this video helped someone who's looking to install wheels or upgrade the wheels on their Harley Davidson touring models. I also want to thank the members on YouTube and my Patreons because their support helps me pay for those wheels and tires and parts and all that stuff. So thank you guys for all your support. If you want to know how to become one of those, there's a link down below. Hope you guys really liked this video. If you do, please share it out. Remember to subscribe. And as always, y'all stay safe, keep on riding, and we'll see you in the next one.